Hi, it's Dr. Brown, and I'm going to show you really quickly how you can use online rooms in D2L to have group meetings, team meetings, or class meetings. Depends on which class you're viewing this for, what you might be wanting to use it in. So your instructor has to set them up first. So if this is for one of my classes and there isn't one set up, you just need to send me an email saying that your team would like to use that tool, and I can go ahead and make one for you. The course I'm showing you right now is LDRV 305. And so in this course, sometimes your navigation might be different for different classes and things like that. I try to keep them the same in my courses, but occasionally there are things that are available or not. But for this class, we would go under Communication, and under Communication we find a link to the Online Rooms tool. So we could select that. All right, and so then it's going to give you a list of rooms. If there is no list, again, that means that that hasn't been created because the instructor does have to go ahead and make them for you. So you would just need to ask, if you're in my class, me to do that, and I could set it up. So once you're ready, you would click Join. And now here's the fun part. It takes a little bit to start going. It's particularly slow because I'm recording PanOpto at the same time. These kinds of things can happen as well, where you may need to update something or whatever, and you're just going to need to do it. If you have trouble getting it started, you can also call or contact 24/7 IT and try to get things taken care of. They regularly help people with this tool, so it's not like they would be unfamiliar with doing that. Now, the thing is, when it does pop up windows, that's just how it works. So what you are going to see is down there in the bottom corner of your screen, hopefully, you're going to see that there's a file that it wants to save. You're going to want to say keep on that and download that file. That file actually is the file that gets you into the online room. So this window opened, you're prompted to install stuff probably, all of these things happened. None of that actually gets you into the online room, that file does. So then you double click on that file and you wait. And you wait a little bit, and you probably wait a little bit more. It is a Java application, so it'll run through Java and open up, hopefully. Eventually. Sometimes it opens up in a different window, things like that. So there we go. Mine's finally starting, but I always kind of look around and see where it chose to do its thing. So we'll wait some more. Trying to be patient with it. It's a good idea to go get a drink, snack, something to have on hand while you're doing your actual meeting. And for these meetings in this, when it's for a class that I'm requiring synchronous discussions for, I do require you to use something like these. So they're very attractive, but typically we don't do video in those because that makes it run so slowly. But something like this, because it's got a microphone that isolates your voice very well, keeps background noise out of the recording or out of when you're broadcasting your voice and talking to other people, and that can be really, really helpful. It also puts the people right in your ears, so you can actually do it somewhere where I know one of my students before, he had 3 kids that would be running around while he's doing his discussions with the class. And it's totally fine because it was, it's in his ears and in his face, and he's right here with us, and we couldn't really hear the kids or anything. So it worked out very well. But I do suggest getting something like this. They're on, I think the cheapest ones I found are typically on Amazon, and that can be the way to go. And I think these are less than $15. You can also, if you're a University of Arizona South student, I know you can rent these. You just have to contact our main administrator in Sierra Vista, and she can help you get set up to do that. So yeah, I use these for those as well, but typically for my recordings I use a slightly higher powered microphone. So that's why I'm not talking in it at the moment. So you can see, because I don't have my speakers turned on, because usually when I'm doing a recording I don't like to do that just in case some website decides to make sounds or something all of a sudden. You would need speakers connected, which these are headphones are speakers that go on your ears. So those would count if you had those hooked up. And the way I've got this one set up, because I've set it up to be for potential group meetings for students, is that every person is actually a moderator. Typically, if this is a course discussion, I would be the only moderator involved, the instructor. But you guys have all moderating rights if it's set up to be a group meeting, which means you can choose what you're doing with people within this session. So you can choose to turn on video or to turn on talk. And again, this is kind of one of the nice features of this, that you can, by not clicking the talk button when you're not talking, your microphone is off. So that's really helpful for when we're doing discussions and I'll call on a particular person to answer or something like that. Then everybody else's mics are off, just that person talks for a second, so we can really clearly hear each other. And then typically in those class situations, I use what's called breakout rooms to put people in small groups so that all 4 of those people in that small group can leave their mics on and just chat with each other. But if we tried to do that 20, 30 people all at the same time in the big room, doesn't work quite so well. So then we come back and a representative for the group tells us what their group came up with or something like that. So that's typically how we do those synchronous discussions. So if you can also, I believe, allow people to use a phone for conference audio instead. I haven't experimented too much with that. There is also a way to get a link to send to someone so that they can I have had students use a smartphone to call in, but there's an app for the phones for that. And so typically I send them a link, they click on the link, it prompts them to install the app, and then they do that. I've done that in a few situations, but it is a slightly complicated method, so you probably wouldn't want to be doing that for your group meetings and relying on that to actually work. If you need more information about that, email me and I can walk you through it. But so you can see in here that moderators have a lot of options. So if you look at the tools, application sharing means like sharing your desktop. So what I'm doing right now, letting you see what's happening on my desktop, you would be able to do. Obviously there's the chat window over on the left side of the screen here that you could use to chat. You can check that audio is working. You can also use breakout rooms. So for example, if for this group meeting online room, if 2 groups got into it at the same time, but obviously didn't want to talk to each other, they want to talk to their group, you could turn breakout rooms on and allow people to put themselves in them, and that way the 2 separate groups would be able to go in separate rooms to talk to just their group. So that's why I keep that option on and make you moderators for this. So there's chatting, all kinds of things. Graphing calculators. The in-session invite, I believe, is how you email someone a link to things, invite new participant. You can, this I'll show you in just a second because this is not the fastest way to do that piece. You can do polls as well. So like if you needed to poll your group on something and you wanted them to fill it out this way instead of just saying it, I don't know why you do that, but if you had a big group, maybe you can do that. The recording is not turned on for this one, I believe, but yeah, you can start timers. I do that a lot when I use breakout rooms, but that's typical in our, in our kind of course. You can use your cameras if you'd like to see each other, or if like the lead of the group wants to turn video on. Again, you'd have to have a webcam for that. You can also turn on a whiteboard and use a whiteboard. So I believe this one right now, this little icon up here with the little pencil means that whiteboard is turned on. So all of these options over here on the left are whiteboard options. So we could, I think we can, if I click on the right stuff, we can write on the page. You can upload files, like PowerPoints and things like that with load content, or a Word document, or anything for you guys to write on. It does turn it into an image and then let you write on it, so it's not like Google Docs, collaborating in Google Docs or anything. If you wanted to do that, you would need to do that in Google Docs. So that's just one of those things. And I would use Google Hangouts if you were trying to do that while talking to each other. So again, there's multiple ways to control things, which is typical for most software. So just find the one that, click around. You can't break it. You can close it, but you can't really break the software because yeah, you're a moderator, but you don't have install control or anything. So don't be too worried about that. Just click on stuff until you can, figure out what you're trying to do. This one lets you share applications on your desktop. This one lets you share a web page. So just clicking around to find what you're looking for is really kind of the way to go. So here you can see that I could switch to using a phone. It's telling me that little red star means I need to set up my audio for it to work properly. That's because I'm already using my audio to make this recording, so obviously it's not going to let me use them for both. I could turn on talk, I could turn on video. Here's how you can interact with people kind of using this little space. If there were more people in here, it would show a list of those individuals. And you can have a smiley face, which then shows that you're smiling to the entire group of people that's in the list, as long as they're looking at that participant list. Ooh, sorry, planes going by. Hopefully you can't hear that too much. I've got the window open. It's a gorgeous day. You can do this to tell people that you have to step away from the session for a moment, and it will automatically step you away if your connection gets bad and so you're not able to interact, which is nice, so people can see if you're having connection problems. You can raise your hand and it'll put like a number next to your name to see who should be answered first. I love that feature when I'm teaching the class. Lower your hand, you can respond yes or no very quickly, or the moderator can put poll options in for what you should be able to respond. You can do all of these things. I find this really helpful when students are doing this, if they express confusion when they're confused, or if they say, oh, I'm going too fast, ask me to slow down, without having to actually say anything. Though I am getting very good at reading the chat while saying the things while managing breakout rooms. So I'm learning my skills over time. But those things are really helpful because it's just such a visual cue and I immediately pick up on it. I'll see that blue color, I'll see the, whatever the arrows and really pick up on it very quickly. So as a moderator here also, you have these options to turn things on and off. So you can turn on, the sharing, and you can, if there's an X on it, that means it's turned off. So you could turn off whatever. Granted, everyone else would be moderators, they can turn it on or off too, but for example, often when I run a class in here, I turn off video automatically. That way nobody tries to run video, because if we have 20 people in the class and everybody, their webcams all try to connect, it gets really slow, so that can be a problem. So that might be one thing if you find that your connection isn't great. It can, because your connection is only as good as the slowest person's connection typically, so that can be a problem. So you can turn that on or off to make that work. And the chat window I've found works very well. You can do the whole emoticon thing. There's not a ton of options, but there's a few. And some students find that really helpful when they're saying something sarcastic, to make it clear that you're being sarcastic, not rude or whatever. So it can be helpful to do that when you're chatting as well. So I think that's a decent overview of the things you can do. Again, a lot of things here can be done. You can place clip art and things like that. You can take screenshots of things and the loading content to load your presentations or your different files to talk about them. And hopefully you find this a useful tool. The most painful thing most students find is just getting into it the first time. And once they're in, they tend to be able to work with it very well. It's just kind of that the getting in is weird. The window opens, then there's a file you're supposed to open, then you have to wait so long. We're not used to waiting that long for things to just start anymore, I think. So even I, the first time, was like, what am I doing? So I think that's the hardest part. But once you get in, it typically works very well. Students report that they have a good time with it. Some students use just like microphone and headphones that they would use with their cell phone, and sometimes that can work too. Some of those pick up a lot of background noise, so it just depends on where you are if that's going to be an effective solution. So I hope that you have a good time meeting with your groups or meeting us in class soon in the Online Rooms tool. Good luck. Now I have to turn off my recording. Okay, bye.